Hola, Sofía.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, gracias.
Oh, qué bueno.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm
Oh,
so excited to learn about Partida and both the lineups.
yes, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been watching your IG lives, and it looks like you just started this during the whole coronavirus to kind of get out there and talk to different suppliers. I think what you're doing is terrific.
Thank you. It's been very sad not being able to open our speakeasy up to the public, so it's a great way to still show it off.
Absolutely. And we're all such social creatures in this industry that I think it's hit me really hard because I was always out with my customers, my distributors, and just had that real social life that always was surrounding my work and my career. So to have that stop cold. It was quite a shock, but this virtual world that we're living in is really, it's nice to be able to connect. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you for, I know you're on a different time zone.
Yeah, so you're on East Coast and I'm on West Coast. So I'm coming to you from San Juan Capistrano in Orange County, Southern California. And here in my home, this is actually the first time I've been doing a virtual event where we have our entire lineup. So, we started out with just our core brand from the Blanco Reposado Añejo Extra Añejo. Now we've added a luxury sipping line called Roble Fino, and one that I'm not even sure I'm supposed to talk about, but you're definitely going to get the preview today of a new Cristalino Añejo that we're going to be releasing in about a month to a month and a half. So I've got that here too. So it just came in the mail today. So I'm so excited.
Amazing time. All right. So I guess we'll just get in here. We already
Okay.
have yours. Um,
Okay.
so Tequila Partida, how long has it been around and what exactly is tequila?
Okay. So Partida has been around since 2005. So we got into the business. My family was already producing tequila, growing agave before I ever got into the business. And we launched Partida in 2005. And our brand is really about purity and precision, starting from the very beginning. And our inspiration for this brand was my late uncle, Enrique Partida. He was my father's brother and the tequilero of the family. He had one of the larger agave estates in Jalisco, in the lowlands of Mexico. So he was truly the inspiration behind the brand. He believed as a farmer that the care and the tenderness that you gave your agaves would always show up as mastery in the glass. So he was all about purity and precision and really showed us that that was the right thing to do. So we have an incredible lineup of beautiful sipping tequilas now that are all from the lowlands of Mexico. And I've heard on some of your other podcasts how you really focus on terroir, which I love because in tequila and the surrounding areas in this lowland Mexico, this is the oldest growing region, the oldest tequila producing region in all of Mexico. This is where the history they call La Cuna del Tequila. So the birthplace of tequila. So you're really going to pick up a lot of terroir from tequilas coming from this particular area. I always like to give people a visualization of where our lands are. So if you can imagine the surrounding, your this beautiful lowlands, or this we call the Tequila Valley, these beautiful rolling hills surrounded by the Sierra Madre volcano. So you can imagine the earth there, the land made of the red Mexican clay, black volcanic stone. So all of these elements are influencing the agave that is grown there. So typically these tequilas that come from this area are more hearty in nature, full bodied. I always say, Partida has a very big personality. It's not a wimpy tequila. It's definitely in the vein of a regional style, big, bold, earthy, but with a few delicate features that not all those tequilas have from this particular area. And part of that, I think, is Partida has it has a delicate feature about it that a lot of tequilas don't particularly share from this area. And it's because of our more modern production processes. So while, you know, everything is done by hand, still to this day, one of the things that I tell people so that they can imagine, modern farming agricultural techniques have not come to tequila. I mean, we certainly use them in the production process, but the farming process, it's still done by a human hand, a jimador. It's still a skill that is passed down from father to son. You know, you go to the vineyards, and you see, you know, you see these big machines shaking the vines, and you know, you see that in most agricultural practices, but not tequila. Still done by human hand, still done by, you know, father to son. So it's an incredible, it's truly living your craft. And that's why it's so wonderful. It's wonderful to be associated with it. Not only that does it run in my veins, but it's such a beautiful cultural experience to understand.
Amazing. That's one thing I found interesting during my research when I was reading about the volcano, and that's where the agaves grow. For the viewers, how long do you let the agaves grow?
So for us, it's all about the maturity of the plant. And there are certain tests that you can apply that will show you how much sugar's in the plant. So this is called a brick level. It measures the carbohydrates in the plants. So we're always looking at about, you know, between 25 and 27% sugar. That is typically about 35 to 36 bricks, and that equates to a plant minimum 7 years old. So it has to be at least 7 years old before we'll harvest it. And also the way it's harvested is very important also. So if you imagine the piña, the jimador has to shave the pencas, the leaves from the piña, and you have to get down to that heart, that piña. But if you leave part of the penca intact, that's bitter. That's going to create a bitter tequila. Same thing, if you don't core the piña, enough of the core, take that out as well. Again, that's going to leave some bitterness. So not only does the plant have to be mature enough to be harvested, but it has to be harvested in a particular way to achieve the very best and highest quality tequila. So there's truly an art and there's a craft to the farming part of tequila, which I think is very beautiful. So Partida actually, you know, this beautiful lowland area that's producing these gorgeous big personality tequilas. You know, I mentioned in the beginning we're a little different in the way that we produce, that we go into our production process. So most distilleries in this area are still doing very traditional practices, especially when it comes to the way they're cooking their agave. So typically there is an oven that is made of some type of masonry. So it could be cement, brick, stone, even some are still doing clay, but not very many, but or a combination of those. So if you imagine those older ovens that are very romantic to look at, by the way, they over time, over years, will produce thicker and thicker charred walls or soot. And so that is why so many tequilas from the Tequila Valley are so smoky. So because of the way they're cooked in these masonry ovens that are just like the inside of a fireplace. So at Partida, we decided, you know, when we were developing this brand, we didn't want to be like every lowland tequila that has that big. We love the flavor, we love the heritage, but we wanted to get away from that smoky overtone. So we are cooking in a stainless steel autoclave, which completely eliminates all of that because the oven's not influencing as it is with the other porous ovens. These ovens are a very sanitary way of cooking. They can be sanitized after every use. It's basically low and slow pressure cooker style. But before the agaves ever get into the oven, one thing that we always do is we make sure that we have the agave from harvest, from field, into the cooking process within 24 hours. I can't tell you how important it is to start out with a fresh plant. I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to go to some of the distilleries in Mexico, and see, as you walk through, piles and piles of agave just laying about the distilleries. And that's just something very typical, but you won't see that at our distillery. We make sure, one of the things that our master distiller, Jose Valdez, he's a stickler about is getting the agave into the oven while it's still fresh. And that's, within that 24-hour period for us, it's very crucial. After we do that nice slow cooking in the autoclave, low and slow, about 24 hours, at that point, we are extracting the juice. We're using a roller mill that has 4 different extractors. So we're extracting as much juice as possible. From that point, it's called musto. The musto is fermented, and at Partida, we're using an open air fermentation. So we're not closing the tanks, we're not heating the tanks. Whatever's in the air, wild yeast propagation, is what is going to be influencing the fermentation. And it could take a couple days, 4 days. And at that point, there's a distillation process that it goes through, and it's a double distillation process. So basically removing the heads and tails, and then exact, pardon me?
Pot
Yeah,
still?
small pot stills with copper interiors. So we are double distillation. So there are other tequilas, I'm sure you've noticed, that are going beyond that double distillation. But for us, that's one of the things we really felt like we had to hold true. We didn't want to take away from the tequila with that third distillate where you begin to strip the aromas and the flavors. So at that point, of course, it rests for a little while, gets diluted to the right ABV, and goes into a bottle, becomes the Blanco, of course, or turns into one of our aged expressions. So for our barrels, we've got some really exciting stuff that we've been doing lately, some fun experimentation, some innovation brands, but the core brand it's aged in an American oak bourbon barrel. And the bourbon that was once contained in this barrel was 80% corn mash. So it's a little higher corn mash. That's what we're looking for to produce the sweeter tequila. These barrels come to us. They have a medium char. They've been used twice for a lifetime of the bourbon. So, that's about 6 years or so. And then we are using them for our reposado for 6 months, our añejo for 18 months, and our extra añejo for about 38 months, 38 to 39. That one can go anywhere between 38 to 42 months, depending on our master distiller, Jose Valdez's. It's up to him. He says that's the highest maintenance tequila that we make is the extra añejo. So that's our core line. We're using those American oak bourbon barrels. We don't recondition the barrels. We basically wash them with hot water and then use them in the barrel room for all of our aged expressions. And I don't want to just keep talking, but we have an amazing new lineup, and I think that our PR agency might have talked to you about our new luxury sipping line called Roble Fino, which is so exciting because Partida in 2016 joined the Edrington portfolio. The Edrington owns the Macallan Scotch, Highland Park, Noble Oak, Wyoming whiskey, very beautiful high-end single malts. So back in 2016, our master distiller, Jose, was invited to Scotland to really see behind the scenes and get the VIP tour. And he just fell in love with the whole process. He became a Scotch lover and was able to really be side by side with the master distillers at all the different distilleries he was able to visit while he was in Scotland. And he had this incredible idea. Why don't we produce a tequila using these beautiful single malt Scotch barrels? What would that be like? So they said 3 different types of barrels from Scotland to Mexico, you can imagine. And he experimented. And he said, okay, well, let's try the Punchon barrel. Let's try this barrel. He came up with, the barrel that he liked the most was a 250-liter hogshead barrel that is sherry seasoned. So basically, this barrel starts out as a 100-year-old European oak tree. Then they cut it and they dry it for a year. They turn it into staves. They dry it again for about 18 months. They turn it into a barrel, treat it with heat, and then they fill it with sherry. They send it to northern Spain and they fill it with sherry for 6 years.
I love
So it's incredible, and it's a oloroso sherry. It's the finest sherry. So this is basically seasoning the wood. It's infusing the wood. It's getting rid of some of the tannins, and it's just producing this incredible flavor. Then they send the barrel to Scotland, where it is used for a beautiful single malt Scotch twice for 12 years. So we're almost talking about a 30-year-old barrel that we're getting in Mexico. So we're producing a beautiful luxury sipping tequila line called Roble Fino. Roble Fino means fine oak, and so it's really about the cask story and this beautiful wood story for us. He started out with a reposado. This reposado is finished, so this is a finishing. So it starts out as the core Partida reposado, which we went over 6 months, American oak whiskey barrels. Then it goes into these 250-liter hogsheads casks that have previously held single malt Scotch for 2 months. Our master distiller has popped the ABV to 43%. And I'll tell you, it is so beautiful because it has this sherry undertone that is dramatic. And I'm not really used to that in a tequila, so it's just incredible. So we are calling this the single malt of tequila.
Oh, wow.
Because if you love Scotch, whiskey, you are going to go crazy over this. So we made a reposado, we made an añejo, and the añejo's actually been aged for 5 months in that finishing barrel. So you're going to get these beautiful red shimmers, this gorgeous tequila, again, dramatic undertones. And this is a 45 ABV, which, a lot of times when you pump up the ABV, you might experience a little bit of heat, but there's nothing going on with this. I mean, the heat, he nailed it perfectly with the alcohol volume here, because it creates this explosion of flavors and aromas that I don't think we could have gotten at 40%. So it really made sense for him, for Jose to do this at 45%. It's just beautiful. And then as I continue to go, I mean, I never had so many tequilas to talk about before. So it keeps going. This one is our Roble Fino Cristalino. So this is actually a reposado. So again, it's basically this exact same reposado that I just described to you, filtered. So I'm sure you're probably familiar with Cristalinos, even though it's not an official category in Mexico yet. It is on fire. The category in Mexico is so hot right now. All the millennials, everybody is so into that. So it is definitely going to transfer over to the U.S. We're already seeing the Cristalino categories it's coming up, and all of the major tequila players, they've all got one now. So we thought, okay, let's try it. And the thing about the Cristalino category for me, I was never a fan of, and the reason was because I never found one that I truly enjoyed. They felt too light and flimsy to me. So I always was looking for one. And so when Jose told me about this, I thought, oh God, okay, well, let's see how we do. Something about the sherry, it pops the flavor so beautifully. So to remove the color, you're using a carbonated charcoal process. We use one that is done with coconut fibers. So you're draining the color, and at the same time that you're draining the color, of course, you're going to drain a little bit of the flavor and the aromas, but at the same time, you're going to amplify some of the others. So this is so much fun because, you think you're drinking a clear spirit. So your mind is going, okay, well, this must taste like this. But then the nose is just, sweet, sweet oak. And it's just phenomenal. So I'm very excited about the Cristalino.
That's amazing. Well, for one, are those the luxury lineup? Is that available all over U.S. or not yet?
Yeah, so you can check. I'll send people over to our Partida Tequila website to find out where they can buy. We have launched it with a large retailer here across the United States. So we only produced a couple thousand bottles this year because it was our first run, and we were and it's a very exclusive item. So it's sold out, it's sold out, but you can absolutely find it. Just look on our website and it'll guide you where to go.
All right.
Yes.
I had a question regarding the how you maintain sustainability if you do, because I know the agave plants are great not only because they make tequila, but you can still reuse, like use them for needlework, and so they have so many different pieces. So
Are you talking about the agave plant?
yes,
Yes.
or how do you in some way maintain
Well,
sustainability?
I do, and that would be a better question for our master distiller, Jose, because he's right in there with all of with all of that. But I know for sure that he's told me that the gabazo that is left over after the agave is actually juice. It's the fiber that is left over. He mentioned that they do use that as fertilizer in the fields. And then, as part of the bottlenose bat program, I believe it's 2% of all agave plants they let go to the quiote come up and for the bat, for the pollination of the bottlenose bat. But yeah, again, Jose, I would definitely, you should absolutely have him on your show sometime because he's fascinating and he's so good with all the technical stuff. I love the romanticize and I love the whole idea of, the culture. But Jose, he's obviously the master distiller and he can speak to all of that much better than I can.
Perfect. But now, being a Lord, that's very physically labor intensive. Is there anything that Partida does to take care of their jimadores, physical well-being?
Well, I believe that Jose he does use brokers from time to time because he has certain specifications, exactly what he's looking for in terms of brick level, carbohydrate, sugar level. So we don't employ jimadores directly. We purchase some of our agave through growers that actually employ jimadores. So, we keep our eye on it, but we don't employ them.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then you being the national brand ambassador, what were maybe some of the struggles you've come across throughout your
Wow. Struggles. Well, I mean, it's been so, when we launched Partida in 2005, it was a completely different era for tequila. We were one of maybe 7 tequilas that were physically in the marketplace. Now, 15, 16 years later, the category is beyond crowded and it's beyond noisy and there's so much going on. So I think the biggest challenge right now is getting the attention, not being a celebrity, not having, hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to put behind marketing, and just to be out there kind of preaching the good word, and the mission of kind of converting people into the sipping, understanding its characters, drinking it neat. I think that's probably the biggest challenge right now for us as a company. For me as an ambassador, it's just continuing to educate people because when we've launched Partida in 2005, the education was simple. Here's how to enjoy a tequila neat, here's how to enjoy the characters. Now this is how a real tequila behaves. It's completely different because one thing that I have noticed is there is a lot of production because production is so low cost in Mexico right now. So you're getting in some of these very, very high tech diffuser process that you could produce a bottle of tequila much, much less expensive than you could 10 years ago. Very, very quickly. You can produce a bottle of Blanco within hours. So what I'm noticing now is some of these tequilas, you just have to understand where to go, where to buy, who to trust. And it's a difficult process because again, there's so much competition and noise in the category. It's just every other day there's a new tequila being launched, and we think it's wonderful that people are coming to the category, but also I think that there's some manipulation going on, you know, that the additives and the diffuser process are creating some very, almost want to call them homogenized tequilas that are, you know, not so great. So that's always, it's just an education process, you know, and I think that for us, you know, the Cristalino category is going to be another education process because people, they know it, but they're not familiar with it. So that'll be a fun one to try to get people to understand and experience. So
Yeah, especially because clear spirits are always in the mix.
yeah.
I've been bartending for several parties, and everyone always leans towards either tequila blanco or vodka. That's kind of
Exactly. And people aren't, you know, when they're drinking a clear spirit, they expect no flavor and no aroma. So it's like you have to change their mind about that, you know. So that's what I think is so exciting about the Cristalino category. Just I think that um, I think it's fun. You know, it's new and it's fun and it's something that is like, you know, to have something exciting to talk about in tequila. You know, I know you're a big fan of mezcal. I watch your show, and I love it too. So it's wonderful to be introducing some of these newer concepts, newer innovation brands. I think that we're going to see a lot more coming over to the U.S. here in the next, you know, 5 years. I'm sure Raicilla will probably make a splash. You know, I mean, I think
yeah.
things are going to start coming along. So, I mean, it's just wonderful to be able to be a player in the category because, you know, Partida didn't launch anything new. It's been 15 years. So this is really the first time for us that we're able to, that we have the resources and access to the best, you know, single malts casks. And we never had that before. So we're very thankful to our parent company, Edrington, for being involved with us and you know leading us in these directions. So it's really good stuff.
I think one thing you mentioned that Partida is very bold in its character, and I think for at least me as a bartender, hearing that, I'm like, that's great. That means it can stand up to a cocktail.
Absolutely, I think that is really important when you're creating a cocktail. I always, when I'm focusing on a cocktail with Partida, I always create a cocktail where, you know, Partita is the leading spirit. I'm not adding Grand Marnier. I'm not adding other spirits so much. I like to, you know, I like for Partita to be the shining star in a cocktail, and that's why obviously, you know, fresh, you know, seasonal fruits and, you know, even herbs and things like that that really kind of make those flavors pop. I love to pair our tequilas with the notes that are existing in the liquid, pair it with that type of you know, grapefruit and, you know, tangerine and all these beautiful notes that exist in the liquid. I like to play with it that way too.
And you had also mentioned the part about the celebrities. It's funny that you mentioned it because this has been really happening this week and the last.
Uh-huh.
Keep getting customers asking for certain tequilas that are again like faces of celebrity. I think
Right.
again that's the great thing about bartending as well, just like being an ambassador, being able to educate. Because I was telling the owner, I was like, instead of going for that, my I'd suggest just increase the tequila selection and take that as an educational opportunity to introduce another um, tequila brand to them. Because I've always noticed that once you
Yeah.
have options and introduce them to something new with a story, they
Yeah.
forget about the celebrity. They just know.
Absolutely. I know. And, you know, I'm such a fan of both those guys. I mean, I love The Rock and I love George Clooney. So it's like, okay, you know, and I think it's good. You know, I think that anything that brings people to the category of tequila is fantastic. Right? I mean, for me, it's like, you know what? Go for it, celebrities. Bring them on over. You know, well, options. It's all about options.
And
Maybe they'll
both
have a bottle of
stores,
Terramana, a bottle of Partita, a bottle of, you know, let's home bar, right?
yeah, bring them over to the table and then
That's right.
take
That
them.
is that is the idea, 100%. So, what kind of cocktails are you thinking about with Partita?
So I was going to make one cocktail, but because of Columbus Day, it's
Ah,
deviated my package.
oh, you didn't get
But
it?
not yet. They
Oh my
just
God.
emailed me that now it's finally. It looks like it was supposed to be delivered last week on Wednesday, but UPS, I guess it got stuck. They say.
Oh no.
But yeah, it's Columbus Day really deviated it. So I'm definitely gonna pick it up tomorrow. But
Okay.
what I was going to make with the reposado, thank you so much for that bottle, was an horchata.
Oh, horchata,
Yeah.
really?
So I've had mezcal horchatas, which are great, but when I was reading about the tasting notes of Partida Reposado, it's like hazelnut almonds. So I have a coffee and horchata that I make for my cocktail mixer company with
Ooh.
toasted pepita seeds and
Mm.
toasted allspice and cinnamon sticks, along with seeds that are those are the main seeds in Salvadorian horchata, which is where my mom is
Mm.
from.
Wow.
So very tasty, and those coffee notes. Definitely, I'll be posting that when I get the bottle.
Ooh. How exciting. So you are making this horchata homemade with the rice? How?
No rice, because in El Salvador, the way they do it is using more moro seeds.
Oh, okay, okay. Uh-huh.
Just like in Puerto Rico, they use, instead of rice, they use sesame seeds.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's exciting. And you said you have a mixer that you have
Yes,
with,
I have
oh,
a company called Endless Paradise Cocktail Mixers. So I
uh-huh,
sell non-alcoholic mixers. That way you
uh-huh.
can choose if you want alcohol or if you
That's fantastic.
want to add. So coffee horchata is part of my seasonal
Oh, I
menu.
love it.
And then I have a mixer that's kind of all year round, inspired by tiki and by palomas. It's called
Ah,
Aphrodite's mixer.
ooh,
I use an aphrodisiac tea blend. I use cinnamon sticks along with a fresh grape juice that I add citric acid and
wow.
cane sugar and some water, and then you can just mix that up. So
That
that's
sounds amazing.
the reposado.
I love it.
And then I feel like I had more questions. I'm
Okay.
trying to think. But in the meantime, do you have any plans for yourself for the future? Any thoughts of where you see maybe 5 to 10 years from now?
God, nobody's asked me that in a long time. That's good. I really enjoy what I do. I was actually one of the co-founders of Partida. I got into the business because my family was producing these, tequilas and growing this agave. And I went to Mexico to visit, and they got me in the business. They said, you know what, we're going to pass the torch to you. You're going to bring our spirit to the US. So it was a task that I took very seriously. And I really love what I do. And I enjoy talking to consumers and distributors and just people like you, and just to spread the word of tequila. I see myself continuing on this path. I sometimes think, well, would it be cool to do this or mezcal or do, but my love is tequila, and it's something that I feel like I will see it through. I think Partida is one of those organically, it's grown very organically, but it's still a very small brand. So I really have my work cut out for me to continue this journey that I've been on with Partida, and see it through to the point of, creating more awareness, creating more, obviously more business around it, more excitement around it. So, I mean, you guys are stuck with me for a little while, I think.
You mentioned mezcal a couple of times. Have you seen the growth of the mezcal category taking away from tequila or not?
I don't see it taking away from tequila. I don't really look at it that way. I see it as a beautiful complement to tequila, because once again, I think that people are attracted to that category because they heard about it. The bartender's so excited about it. They're seeing menu placements. They're seeing, these incredible cocktails. And again, bringing people to that category, tequila's the brother of mezcal, right? So, I mean, I think that it's really healthy, and I've enjoyed witnessing the explosion with mezcal. And I think, when bartenders get on something, that's it. And so I enjoy that they're on that, because I feel like, it's part of the tequila soul as well. So we benefit from it. Yeah, I don't feel like it's taking away from tequila. I feel like it's bringing more people to tequila, right? That's my thought.
And that's an amazing way to look at it. It's
Yeah.
all the day.
Absolutely. And we're also friendly in this industry. I mean, I always feel like we all have each other's backs. I mean, sure, we all fight for shelf space. It's like, oh, but in reality, we all have the same goal in the end, and that's to teach people about the beautiful ways of our industry and of tequila. And I think that it's a pretty friendly industry. I mean, I've been in it for, it's changed a lot. I've been in it for quite a while, and it's grown so much, but it's remained very friendly. So I'm happy about that.
And then could you go through the viewers on your personal tasting notes for Partida La
Oh my
Familia?
gosh, absolutely. Well, again, we have so many of them, and I might get in trouble for this, but this is you won't. This has not been launched yet. This is our Partida Añejo Cristalino. So this is our exact Partida Añejo that has been aged for 18 months in the bourbon barrel, filtered. So again, we're creating this beautiful clear añejo that is, I just tried for the first time today. It is exquisite. And again, surprising, because it's this clear liquid that you're thinking that it's going to be Blanco-ish, but it's full of sweet oak and full of these really beautiful, deep, rich aromas. But then in the mouth, it's light. So filtering creates smoothness, as I'm sure you know. So I think the objective here is to create a tequila that has all the characteristics of an añejo on the light side, just smoothness and light, and it's just lovely. So I'm so excited about this because I just got it today. But tasting notes, we have so many different tequilas now, but I would say I would always go back to the Blanco on that, because of course the Blanco is the base of all of our tequilas. And this is where the terroir comes through. And this is where that black volcanic stone is representing and expressing itself as a mineral. When I do tastings, I tell people, have you ever, and sometimes it gets a laugh, but have you ever licked, when you're a kid, like licked a rock? That rock, that mineral,
Wonderful, yeah.
it's exactly what's going on in this Blanco tequila. You're going to pick up the agave that is obviously the dominant, that's the agriculture. I mean, all you need to make tequila is agave and water. That's the ingredients. So that's what you're going to get here. Very agave forward tequila, again, because we're not using the traditional ovens where we're creating a kind of a smoky undertone. This is all about the fresh agave. So here, people ask me, well, what does fresh agave taste and smell like? To me, it's really close to a cooked yam or a really glazed sweet potato. So those notes are really dominant in the Blanco, and they're thread through our entire lineup. Even in the Roble Fino, you are going to pick up on that beautiful agave. It just transforms. So here, it's your basic cooked yam, sweet, and then here, it's a glazed, hearty, um, dried fruit, but it's still a cooked yam. So it's interesting that thread of flavor just continues from one to the other. And of course, the Roble Fino with that sherry undertone, you're going to pick up this dramatic raisin that is just spectacular. I can't wait for you to try it.
I'm so excited. Definitely want to get a little taste of the Roble Fino. I've never.
Absolutely. We have tasting kits. We will absolutely make sure to send you one.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
Is there any last maybe takeaways you want to give to our viewers? Anything you really want them to know about yourself or Partida?
Yes, I want them to know that, you can trust Partida Tequila. We produce our tequila very meticulously. And one of the things that I appreciate so much is the non-use of additives in our brand. So as you know, 1% of what's in this bottle legally can be glycerin, flavoring agents, colors, fillers, agave nectars. I mean, these things exist 1%. And sometimes people say, big deal, what's 1%? 1%'s a lot. Imagine the most intense perfume you own. Imagine that in there, 1%. That's a lot, right? So Partida uses no additives. So for me, that is huge. And that is something that I talk about a lot because additives make production a lot easier. A lot easier. It's much harder to do it without them, but you can always tell. I can always tell. So I think the purity, again, I go back to the purity and the precision of our brand. It's something that you can really put your trust in. And, you know, I love to encourage people to drink our tequilas neat at room temperature. But of course, once you absolutely fall in love, then go for it and put it in a cocktail and shake it with ice and do what you like. But to experience in its true glory with its true characters, it's got to be neat at room temperature. And that way, it really, you'll get the experience of what the master distiller is trying to tell you, what the land is trying to tell you. It's gonna, the story that the aroma carries is profound. I always say the aroma will tell the story. It always should tell the story. So I believe Partida just tells a beautiful story.
I think that's beautifully said. I remember when I started off as a barman, and my bar manager actually told me when you make a cocktail, all of your ingredients have to be the best. If one ingredient is off, you can tell, just like with what you mentioned regarding the 1%. You can always tell if something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me this afternoon. It's so nice to be here and talking with you, fellow Latina.
Yeah,
I enjoy
I hope to
it.
see New York whenever this pandemic is over.
I would love that. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Sophia.
It is my pleasure. Have a nice evening.
You as well. Bye.
Bye.